2004, Konami developed and released Rumble Roses for the Sony PlayStation 2. The concept of the game was that it was an all-female wrestling fighting game with various characters depicted. The focus of the game was on that of Reiko Hinamoto with the wrestling alias of the Zero Fighter, and how she entered a wrestling competition to find out what happened to her mother, a legendary wrestler by the name of Kamikaze Rose. Through the competition, Reiko actually encounters an American wrestler by the name of Dixie Clemens, who grew up idolizing Kamikaze Rose as they both become rivals and mutual friends. Reiko also finds another mysterious wrestler in the competition, being that of Evil Rose. But through the story of the game, it's revealed that she's the older sister of Reiko, being that of Fujiko. Through interactions that Reiko held with Fujiko in the game, as well as dialogue from Dixie, it's mentioned that Kamikaze Rose died while wrestling in a previous competition, but the exact details aren't mentioned. But Fujiko mentions that she knows the full entire details, but does not mention any of it to Reiko. Further hints are mentioned to the player that there's the public explanation in the game of Kamikaze Rose's death that Reiko and Dixie know of, but aren't mentioned to the player, and the hidden truth that Fujiko knows of. The story also mentions that the mysterious Lady X and her attendant of Dr. Anesthesia, as it's revealed that Lady X is actually the corpse of Kamikaze Rose, and Anesthesia knows the full truth behind what happened with the death and or actually had some part in the death of Kamikaze Rose. Anesthesia also happened to use her medical experience to reanimate Kamikaze Rose's dead body and removed parts of it and replaced it with cybernetic attachments, in hopes to use this cyborg technology in the form of Lady X to sell it to international militaries worldwide. The story of the first game later ends, with Reiko and all of her friends and allies she made during the course of the competition putting a stop to Anestesia's evil plans, but the whole situation with Kamikaze Rose's murder still isn't fully resolved, or even known. When the game was released in the United States, reactions to it were mixed from gamers and critics. Some saw it as a decent game in terms of graphics, but the vague aspects of the story and blunt sex appeal of the female characters didn't do much for positive feedback with American gamers. The video game was also dubbed into the English language, with reviewers mentioning that the lack of skill with the voice actors had a comedic edge with the game that some couldn't take seriously. In Japan, however, when released, it actually had decent reviews and reputation. Partially due to the mild success in Japan, a sequel would be made, Rumble Roses XX, released in 2006 exclusively for the Xbox 360. It's important to know that with XX there is no story mode in the game, so the storyline established with the first Rumble Roses isn't continued, and the unresolved plot with Kamikaze Rose isn't addressed at all. The game was unpopular in the United States due to the fact of it being an exclusive to the Xbox 360, and no real aspects to the game besides a few modes of play. But in Japan, the sales of the game were slightly higher than the original, and reactions to it were decent, but sales of the game soon dropped for various reasons. There were plans by Konami to develop and release a third Rumble Roses game, as Konami hinted at such plans and were mentioned from 2007 and 2008, but due to the muted reactions from the Japanese and Western gaming markets, the idea was later abandoned. Sometimes a character can be forgotten quite easily, sometimes due to the lack of interest.